Greetings, all you goateed hijackers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What up?
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and even rate Season 3, Episode 9, Defiant.
Wait, rate? Oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah, so be prepared. Alternate title, Dr. Ryklov.
Okay, now I see it.
Yeah. You gotta throw an alternate title in there.
Yeah, it's important.
Our discussion will contain full spoilers for the series up through this episode. However, we will try to keep spoilers for later in the series to an appropriate minimum. We won't reveal anything too big, like
in Season 5, when William Riker shows up and steals the Defiant.
Bum bum bum.
It was, it was a really great mirror to this episode, but you don't want to get into that too much.
Oh yeah, it totally delivered on the follow-up that was promised.
Yeah.
This episode originally aired November 21st, 1994. It was written by, not Mark Garrett O'Connell. I believe it was written by Ronald D. Moore.
Yeah. What has that guy done? Well, let's see. Lots and lots of Star Trek.
I believe he might have been involved in some show about robots or something.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Also Battlestar Galactica, but that's way in the future. Who cares about that?
And it was directed by Cliff Bole. Gotta love some Cliff Bole, actually.
Who, yes, we know. The Cliffs of Bole, we've been there.
No references to the Cliffs of Bole this episode, or any cliffs, as far as I can remember. I believe our last Cliff Bole episode had the Trill Ice Cliffs or something. But this is a cliff-free episode. Unless
you mean the metaphorical cliff that Riker runs off of with his actions.
Yes, that was Cliff Bole read that. He was like, "Oh, you have to let me direct this. It's a cliff episode."
Is it a cliffhanger? No, not really.
But anyway, recapping this episode. It's a busy time in Ops, and Kira is feeling the stress. Bizalians, calibration subroutine reports. And of all things, Dr. Bashir wants to borrow a runabout to go all the way to Vulcan. He wants to set up some bleeding heart medical center for some people, some colonists. Lame. Finally, it all boils over and Kira snaps at Bashir. In response, Bashir orders Kira to take the day off. He takes her to Quark's, where Quark, who last tried to steal her likeness for a holosuite sex program, gives her a holosuite program and some snacks. I wonder what the holosuite program that was. I suspect it was the sex picnic.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, someone's gonna try this sex picnic, and then word of mouth will just spread.
I'm paying so much to license this. I gotta get it out there.
Also, it was very clearly established last episode that Kira hates holosuites.
Yeah, but I mean, they gave her like 5 options. That was just one of them. They're like, you have to do 2 of these things.
You gotta eat the crackers, drink the juice, eat the Jumja stick, gamble, or go take the sex picnic.
Yep. So
I'm guessing she ate the Jumja stick and drank the juice.
Yeah, Jumja stick or crackers. My guess was she's going to eat something, she's going to drink something, she's going to leave.
So by the way, when was the last time we saw a Jumja stick?
I feel like maybe they've been in the background some, but I agree that they haven't been front and center. Maybe after what happened between O'Brien and the Jumja guy,
True.
That guy's been kind of, persona non grata.
Yeah. He took the wrong side of that political issue.
Yep.
Also, this looks like a new Jumja stick prop, not the one that...
Oh, is it not one of the, 5 that we saw that always get reused?
It looked like a new one to me, but it looked like smaller than previous Jumja sticks. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to go back and do, a full analysis.
Jumja comparison?
Yeah. It's like, is there one that the guy who plays Morn hasn't licked yet? Let's just make a new one. But what really brightens Kira's mood is when a handsome stranger comes over and starts flirting. We look over and it's the man himself, William Riker. Unless you read the episode description on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Then you know it's not William Riker. Good job, Paramount Plus. What happens then between them is ambiguous, but later Riker pays a visit to Sisko and explains that he's passing through on his way to Risa and figured he might stop by at Quark's for some action.
They hooked up 100%.
Right. I mean, whenever a girl says we just talked like 8 times in a row, you know something's up.
She's like, I'm seeing someone. I wouldn't have done that. Like, she totally did that.
Yeah. Which it took me like way too long to remember who she's supposed to be seeing. I was like, wait, who? I was like, oh yeah, Bareil.
We just haven't seen him since he failed to become Kai.
It's like all that flirting with Odo has really thrown me off. I also like Sisko's like, hey, lay off the Dabo girls. My son's dating a Dabo girl. I'm not going to tell you which one, so...
Yeah, not going to tell you which one. Just, so watch yourself.
Yep. Meanwhile, Dax detects some gossip in the water and presses Kira about what happened between Kira and Riker. But Kira's like, I'm with Bareil. Later, Kira literally bumps into Riker on the promenade and offers him a tour of the station, but she almost doesn't. He almost just walks off and the episode doesn't happen.
Yeah, my thought was like, he's clearly playing for this, but he's very confident in his game that he's willing to walk away.
True. I mean, he's clearly in control of the situation. He's like, he knows what he's doing.
Yep.
We know, like, if she didn't invite him on a tour, he'd show up at her quarters or something an hour later. Riker shows particular interest in the Defiant, so Kira takes him down to have a look. They find O'Brien on the bridge, tinkering around, and Riker coldly tells O'Brien he has nothing to say to him.
You know why.
O'Brien is perplexed, but he's like, whatever, and leaves. As he steps off the Defiant, he gets a suspicious expression on his face, but doesn't seem motivated enough to follow up on it.
Nope.
Because if someone was, I have nothing to say to you, like, my instinct would be like, what?
See, my thinking was that he's like, oh crap, I must have offended Riker somehow. How did I do that? I don't know. And then his plan was like to call up one of his buddies on the Enterprise later and be like, dude, what is up? Like, I didn't realize Riker was so pissed at me.
Okay, could be. Or he could be, it's like, is he mad at me for leaving the Enterprise? Or
right? Maybe he's mad because I didn't say goodbye to him before I left. I only said goodbye to Picard because it's the only actor they could afford for that episode.
Right. He even tried to duck Picard.
It's true.
Picard, like, tracked him down. Riker wants to see the tactical display of the Defiant, so Kira unlocks the bridge controls for him. Riker warmly thanks her, then shoots her with a phaser.
Yep.
Then he beams on 2 mystery people.
Who I guess were just on the station waiting.
Yeah. Where they were, I guess they must have been on the station, I don't know. In Ops, Dax detects a problem with the Defiant's warp core. Riker calls them up and tells them to release the docking clamps so he can get the Defiant clear before it blows up. As soon as they do this, the Defiant warps away, with Riker presumably going, yoink!
Yep.
He's like, get those docking clamps off. They're like, okay. They're like, wait, where'd the Defiant go?
It didn't blow up at all.
I think something fishy might be going on here.
I have mixed feelings about this, actually.
Aboard the Defiant, Riker orders a course set for the Badlands, then peels off part of his beard, which has absolutely no effect on his appearance. You did it, Tom, says one of the people. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, I guess they were like, you know what? Now that he's not on the Next Generation anymore, we can shave off his sideburns to make him look slightly different from to visually differentiate the two of them.
If you would have showed up with just that goatee, I would not have noticed.
Yeah, probably I would.
In the slightest.
But it is in the notes that on a side note on the call sheets, Colm Meaney received a haircut and Jonathan Frakes a hair and beard cut.
So wait, during part of the episode, was that his real beard?
Maybe. That's a good point. I hadn't actually thought of that. So hold on. When did filming start on this episode? Because it's all in here. So filming started Friday the 30th of September and ended Tuesday, October 11th. And he got the beard cut on the 5th. So yeah, maybe. It's right in the middle of the thing.
They couldn't have him wearing the fake beard because it would look too fake. So they had him do his real beard. And then when he had to take the beard off, they just shaved off that part of the beard and put a fake beard on for him to peel off.
Maybe.
I'm going with that's what happened.
We're making a lot of assumptions, but it's entirely possible.
Later in the conference room, we gotta use that conference room at least once per episode.
Mm-hmm.
Odo and Sisko give Dukat a rundown of the Next Gen episode Second Chances, that if you didn't see that, this would be super confusing.
Which he cares about not at all.
Yeah, Dukat's like, okay, great, so? And they're like, well, Thomas Riker has been saying some sus pro-Maquis political opinions lately.
Yep.
And Dukat's like, wait, that's bad. And he predicts that the Central Command will use this as an excuse to invade the DMZ, which will inevitably lead to a war. So they decide to work together to track down and stop the Defiant. Sisko offers to go back to Cardassia Prime to help with the operation, saying that he helped design the Defiant when he was stationed at the shipyard, which that's new information.
I feel like he may have mentioned something when he first showed up with it, when he talks about how he specifically requested this ship. But maybe I'm like conflating what I knew with what I heard.
Did he specifically request the ship? I mean, it would make sense that he's like, hey, you know that ship that we built that for the Borg that never really worked out? We should use that for the Defiant.
Yeah, I'm almost certain he says that he asked for this ship.
Okay.
After he explains all the issues with it, he's like, but I asked for it for a reason, and that's because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it totally tracks. And also, we learn that they do still have the cloaking device, just the Romulan lady is nowhere to be found.
Yep. No mention of her, just, whatever.
But yeah, we do get a little bit more on that treaty also, that I think this is where it's made clear they're only allowed to use it in the Gamma Quadrant, and the Romulans are letting them have it in exchange for intel on the Dominion, which is totally also tracks for the Romulans.
Dukat is outraged, and the Cardassian, the City Orders lady is like, well, yeah, we knew, but it wasn't really a big deal. Like one cloaking device, more or less, in the entire galaxy.
What could happen if two government agencies don't share intel? Certainly not something disastrous.
Nah.
So, back on the Defiant, Tom Riker apologizes for the whole honeypot thing and locks Kira in a bunk bedroom. They pick up some more crew, and Riker orders them to set course for the Cardassian border. Dukat takes Sisko to a command center and brags about how he can control the entire Cardassian military in there. But he's cut off when a Cardassian lady enters the room. Dukat introduces her as an observer from the Obsidian Order. She goes around, starts like, hey, like, turn off that top secret. She's like, get that PHI off that screen. It's like, no level 4 or above stuff. And then there's great things like, you understand, Commander. He's like, well, I would have been more discreet.
Yeah, he's like, no, I would have done the same thing. I just would have been better at it.
Yeah.
But this lady is played by Trisha O'Neill in her third and final Star Trek role, having previously played a Klingon named Korak in the episode Suspicions of the Next Generation, and before that, Rachel Garrett in Yesterday's Enterprise.
Oh my gosh, that's Rachel Garrett?
Yep.
Wow, I did not recognize her at all.
Also, random fun fact from the cast section, just under where I read that. So, like,
sure. The
two main Maquis side characters, like, there's a man and a woman who are the primary, like, characters Riker interacts with from the Maquis. Sure. They, the guest stars playing them, met each other on set and would later get married.
Oh,
so yeah, that's nice.
That's I think that's a really sweet thing about the episode. I hope they're still married.
Right.
So yeah, Obsidian Order lady starts grilling Sisko about the weapons on the Defiant, but he's like, actually, I think you should probably be more worried about the cloaking device. And then that's where we get the whole thing. We're like, oh, we know about that. And Dukat's like, what? Anyway, Sisko informs them that the cloak can be detected with an anti-proton beam. So the Defiant cloaks as it approaches Cardassian space, and Riker orders word sent to something called Squadron Baker. So Squadron Baker is going to do something.
Yep.
In her quarters, Kira starts disassembling the replicator. The Cardassians detect the Defiant, which to them does not show as cloaked. It attacks an outpost, then turns to the DMZ. Dukat orders them to pursue, but Sisko's like, wait! That's not the Defiant. It's a trick.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. The real Defiant decloaks and attacks a different outpost, then turns towards Cardassia and recloaks. Tom, onto the anti-proton trick, orders the cloak's resonance frequency adjusted so they can't be detected, which, okay, that puts an end to that, I guess.
Is that a thing that everyone knew they could do? Because why would you not do it in the first place?
I mean, yeah. Because you think if there's a way to make the cloaking device not susceptible to the anti-proton beams, then they would have already fixed that.
That would be part of the cloaking device turn on macro, is also do this thing.
Right. Suddenly, the bridge shakes, the result of Kira's sabotage. So she, did something in her replicator and it blew out some plasma conduits or something.
Yep. Those plasma conduits. Gotta be careful.
Which decloaks them, so they have to go hide in a nebula. Tom goes down to talk to Kira and has a little political argument with her. She's like, no, the people in the DMZ. And she's like, what do you care about the people in the DMZ?
You don't know them.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, come on. He takes her up to the bridge so she doesn't get up to any more funny business. Back on Cardassia, Dukat points out that he's missing his son's birthday. Cisco commiserates as a father and tells him he'll understand when he grows up. But Dukat says when he grows up, the only thing he's going to remember is that the Federation made his daddy miss his birthday. Apparently, Dukat plans on his son growing up to be a whiny bitch. Which, do you even remember your 11th birthday?
Do I remember my 11th birthday? No,
I sure don't.
I absolutely do not.
If this kid grows up and he's in his psychiatrist office being like, my dad didn't show up to my 11th birthday because the mean Federation people. I just don't feel too bad for that.
Yeah, I mean, apparently Dukat's always missing his birthday, and this is the one that he's like, I'm going to make it this one time, and then he didn't.
Sounds like Dukat's more mad about it than I think this kid's ever going to be. But
well, I don't know, if the kid didn't get to go to Wally World or whatever the place was called, then he might be pretty mad. I'm just like, can't you take him a different day, Dukat, and be like, hey, sorry we missed the day of your birthday, but we can still go to the theme park. Which I don't even know why they have theme parks when in the previous episode it was like, no, fun is bad. Kids have to learn discipline and be good citizens.
I also like that the theme park has the most Cardassian name ever. It's like the entertainment complex in the whatever district. Oh, yay, the entertainment complex.
I love that place.
This is Entertainment Billy, the mascot.
The amusement center at Lacarian City. That's
okay,
what it's called.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, the amusement center. On the bridge of the Defiant, Tom lays out his plan to Kira. The Maquis have an intelligence report of a secret military buildup of a Cardassian invasion fleet that even the Central Command is not aware of. Which, the Maquis has a pretty good intelligence service if they have this.
Right?
Kira chides him for not being a very good terrorist, for caring more about intelligence reports than causing indiscriminate terror. Which, why does Tom have to be a terrorist?
Well, he's a Maquis. The Maquis are terrorists. That's the thing.
It's but other people call them terrorists. I'm sure they don't think of themselves as terrorists.
Fair point.
I'm sure they think of themselves as a political action group that has a goal and all that stuff.
Political Action Committee?
So have the Maquis just been going around bombing Cardassian baseball games and stuff?
Maybe.
I don't think so.
We don't hear that much about them. According to the expanded universe of the novels, Tom's entire mission is actually Chakotay's idea, because Tom joined his Maquis cell.
Ah, cool. Meanwhile, Cisco does some tactical analysis that the Defiant seems to be drawing Cardassia's attention away from the Orias system. Dukat's like, there's nothing in the Orias system, but okay, I'll send a ship to check it out. But Obsidian Order lady is like, no, wait, don't do that. Which probably piques Dukat's suspicions.
Yep. No one is allowed in the Orias system.
She's like, stay out of the Orias system. He's like, I didn't think that they were going there, but now I kind of do. Dukat gives Cisco a little lesson on Cardassian politics. So it's like, I guess Central Command is under the Detapa Council or whatever.
Theoretically, yeah.
And Obsidian Order is its own independent agency. So, okay.
Well, he said that he's in theory, they both answer to the civilian government, the Detapa Council, but in practice, they both kind of run their own show.
Right. And I mean, the Central Command pretty much runs all of Cardassia, don't they?
Except for the Obsidian Order, apparently.
Yeah.
But the Obsidian Order isn't allowed by their charter to have military equipment.
Right. Okay, but yeah, they get an alert that the Defiant has been detected heading straight for the Orion system. Dukat orders 9 ships to chase them, and then suddenly 3 more Cardassian ships appear in front of the Defiant. Dukat's like, hey, the Obsidian Order isn't supposed to have ships. The Obsidian Order's lady just smiles and walks off. She's like, heh 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 heh. Back on the Defiant, Kira tries to convince Tom to give up his mission and accuses him of trying to make a name for himself like the other Will Riker. But Tom is not moved in his resolve.
I do like his line there where he's just, I don't even remember what it was now.
It was like, keep fishing, you're not going to catch anything or something like that. Yeah, it was pretty good. On Cardassia, Sisko offers to give Dukat the Defiant sensor logs proving Obsidian Order malfeasance if Dukat agrees to let the Defiant surrender and go home. Dukat agrees only if they get to capture Riker to stand trial on Cardassia. Sisko says okay as long as he can guarantee Riker won't get the death penalty.
Yeah, I do like how we're bringing back it's like, we know about the Cardassian system of jurisprudence and how you already know the outcome of the trial before it happens, so I want you to go ahead and set up that he will be guilty but not killed. And Dukat's like, fine, I'll have to clear that with like the so-and-so guys.
The Defiant starts attacking the Cardassian ships, then they get a call from Dukat and Sisko explaining the deal, which... this is a little weird because it was like, it's Dukat and Sisko, but then it's just Dukat, and then Sisko steps into frame later at the best dramatic moment.
It was not at all dramatic because we already knew Sisko was there, and so did they, apparently.
I think Sisko didn't realize that they would know that. Yeah. So Sisko's like, okay, you stand there, and then like when Riker raises objections, I'll step into frame and I'll like seal the deal.
Sisko's just trying to be a dramatic bitch, and he failed.
Yeah.
Also, note based on this scene, this is the first use on screen of quantum torpedoes by a Federation starship.
I was wondering about that. I was like, have we heard about these quantum torpedoes before?
Apparently, the Cardassians used quantum torpedoes in an episode of Voyager or something, but which technically happens before like on a start date that's before this. I don't know.
Sure.
But this is the first time Federation ships have them.
All right. Those fancy new quantum torpedoes. But yeah, so Kira's like, you should take that deal for your crew. And Tom's like, okay. As they surrender, Kira promises Tom they'll get him out of his labor camp. And he takes this weird moment to steal a kiss. Then he beams out and Kira takes to the Defiant home. The end.
I really was into you. That's why I kidnapped you instead of leaving you on the station. Which I easily could have done.
Because I had an easier time seducing you than I would have Commander Sisko.
Also probably true, yeah.
He's like, I could do it, but it would take a little bit more work.
It's like, I can seduce anyone.
So I am Will Riker.
Well, Thomas Riker. But
right. Well, I mean, it's the exact same dude, so.
Right. Well, not anymore, they're not. Apparently,
right.
According to the extended stuff, apparently he transfers from operations division to the sciences division because he gets in conflict with the first officer of the Gandhi, the ship he was serving on. And so he decides that he's going to he wants to go into medicine, but he doesn't actually have any medical skills. He does, however, have piloting skills, so they make him a medical courier pilot. And that's the job he was doing before he went off to join the Maquis.
Oh, okay. But he was still, apparently he was already pro-Maquis when he was on the Gandhi.
I guess he started to having all these statements or whatever.
Which, that's always good when you're in the military. Like, just, talking about, it's like, man, these anti-government groups, they sure are great.
Yeah, but it's not anti-his government, so it's just like if you were like, man, somebody really should overthrow that Russian government. They pretty much suck.
Yeah.
That's probably an accepted statement in the U.S. military.
Well, I mean, there's no, terror group trying to provoke
there
war.
Probably is.
Yeah, for all we know. I don't know.
But yes, they really set up for his return here.
Yep. Man, I can't wait for that rescue episode.
And yeah, there's let's see. So right after this episode, Ira Stephen Barris commented to saying, "We'll probably see a return of Thomas Riker episode. What's nice is since he's not really part of the next generation, he's ours, and we can do whatever we want with him and not worry that, like, the movies, like, who cares what they do with Will Riker?
Uh-huh.
Except by season 3 or 4, I have to look when exactly that was, but they put out, like, a call to, like, writers to submit spec scripts or whatever for the show. And there was a list of stories they are absolutely not interested in seeing, and Thomas Riker Returns was one of those stories.
Huh. Interesting.
And so it's there's some question about why exactly that happened, but I found another, I think it was Ira Stephen Bear quote. Let me see if I can find it again. Like, there's several times that he's quoted as like, man, we really want to have him back, except before long they decided they don't. So Ira Stephen Bear is says, I thought that character, we could have fun with that character on Deep Space Nine at the time. Unfortunately, for Jonathan, who really liked doing it, that was the moment where I said, we have to cut ties with the past for sure. And as much as I like the character, I said, we can't bring him back, sorry. The guys kept saying, but we can use him. But I felt like we could never have used him enough in order to really get the good storyline going and continuing. And that was the problem.
I'm pretty sure I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, he could have easily been like a cool 2-parter. You could have brought him back regularly. You could have done all sorts of stuff with this character that could have been interesting. He could have had, a lead role in the Maquis after escaping from the prison camp or whatever. Like, there's all sorts of interesting stories you could have told with only using him for a few episodes. And I'm pretty sure Jonathan Frakes would have been up for coming back however often, because Jonathan Frakes got to get paid. So
Jonathan Frakes likes to work.
He does.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a baffling analysis. It's like, we could never make it satisfying, so we're not even going to try. It's like, well, there's a million things you could do.
I do love the idea that, like, all the guys working on the show were like, no, we should totally do this. And he's like, nah.
This sounds like some Ira Stephen Bear type thinking, though.
You're not wrong. Apparently, this episode came out just after the Star Trek Generations movie, but the stardate has it set before the movie, which makes sense because they would have known that the Enterprise was crashed on a planet.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I actually looked up the star dates for this episode in the movie, and I saw this one was before, so I was like, oh, okay.
Maybe that would have been an even better, like, Riker's on vacation because the Enterprise crashed. But that might spoil it for anyone who hadn't yet seen the movie.
That's true. That would have been an easy write-in. He was like, well, the Enterprise crashed, so I'm just going to go, like, hang around Ryza for a while.
Although, I guess that could have enticed people to see the movie if he came in and he's like, yeah, I'm on leave for a while after, well, you know what happened. And Sisko's like, oh yeah, I was sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, see?
1990s Star Trek writers, I'm available for hire if you need some help punching up some scripts.
So I kind of wonder if that's because there was just one commander's log in the middle of the whole episode where he basically explains what we already know. It's like, commander's log, I'm going to Cardassia to sort this stuff out. And it's like, but we already saw that in the previous scene. So I was like, did they do that just so they could put in the star date so that people, like, the Trek nerds wouldn't be like, hey, wait a second.
Good thought. Yeah, it might be.
Okay, so we want to do a little title review of this episode?
Yeah, sure.
Because here's my thoughts. Unless you have thoughts you want to give first.
No, go ahead.
Okay, my thoughts are, it's a cool title. Because, Defiant's the name of the ship, but Defiant, it's also a word. So you get that fun double meaning.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you only get to use that title once.
It's kind of like Dax.
Yeah. And it's like, is this the episode that you really want to use it?
See,
so I think they should have done some long, hard thinking about that.
Until we started this season, in my brain, the episode, I know there's an episode called Defiant. It was the episode where the Defiant shows up.
Right.
That's not true, but that's what was in my head. And then we get to the search part 1. I'm like, oh no, obviously this is the one where Defiant. Okay. I did not remember until we started this episode that this was what Defiant was about.
I feel like they should have saved it for something where, I mean, obviously the Defiant got stolen, so it's a very central part.
Yeah.
But maybe something where the Defiant itself was a little bit more important, and also where the thematic defiantness was a little bit more relevant, because it's like, are the Maquis being defiant? I guess that's what it's supposed to be a reference to. I don't know. So I think they pulled the trigger a little too early on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you. I'm trying to think of what a better title would even be, and I was like, you could call it Riker, I guess, but, and that wouldn't even be a spoiler for which Riker ends up showing up. But yeah, I don't know what's a good title for this.
I think something involving Riker, like what his motivations are, or like to be a hero or something like that. I don't know.
The Tao of Riker.
Yep, that would fit in as a Star Trek title.
Maybe like a hero or terrorist sort of thing.
Oh yeah. Can heroes be terrorists? Do heroes dream of electric terrorists? I feel like there's some gold somewhere in there. I can't quite find it right now, but
it's noted in here that Sisko's role in the episode is based on the 1964 Sidney Lumet Cold War thriller Failsafe, where the president, played by Henry Fonda, is forced to help the Russians shoot down an American plane on its way to launch a nuclear strike on Moscow.
Isn't that the exact plot of Doctor Strangelove? I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in such a long time. But I'll take their word. What's that movie called?
Failsafe.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take their word for it.
Now I'm reading the summary of Failsafe.
So I should have called the episode Reich Safe.
I don't understand what's... I kind of jumped to the end to see what was going on. Apparently... Oh. So in order to maintain peace with the Russians, as this plane with a nuclear missile, or nuclear bomb rather, is heading towards Moscow, the president is like, look, while we're trying to negotiate this, I'll make a deal with you. I'm going to send a nuclear bomber towards New York. And that way, like, if your largest city blows up, our largest city will also blow up, despite the fact that his first lady is there.
Oh.
And then the movie seems to end with both of those bombs getting dropped.
This is very much like Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah. Huh, all right. Well, I spoiled Failsafe in case somebody was going to see that 1964 movie right now.
So I guess it's a non-comedy version of Doctor Strangelove.
It doesn't sound very comedic, no. I like some of these expanded universe versions of Thomas Riker, where it's like, there's one where he gets freed by the Romulans from the Liaison 2 labor camp and then has a brief affair with Sela, who believes that he was the original Riker.
Uh-huh.
But then, driven by jealousy over the news of Worf and Deanna's engagement, he is manipulated into aiding an assassination attempt on Chancellor Gowron and Emperor Kahless.
Huh.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. I mean, the thing you always have to keep in mind with Thomas Riker is that Thomas Riker is Will Riker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, before you have him going in to assassinate Chancellor Gowron or whatever, you have to be like, okay, wait, would the real Will Riker do this? And if not, why would Thomas Riker do it? I guess maybe if he spent all this time in a Cardassian labor camp, that might warp him a little bit, but still.
Also being trapped alone on the surface of that one planet for years.
Yeah, that probably wasn't very conducive to...
He probably had like a volleyball that he talked to. And
yeah. So that volleyball is still down on that planet. He'll never be able to go get it back. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he has nightmares about it.
So it's hard to notice, but the bridge of the Defiant underwent some alterations for this episode, requested by the DP, who was like, look, we shot some stuff in there, but it looked a little off, so they made some changes to the paint scheme and the lighting, so that he's like, now I really think the bridge set comes together on film.
Sure. I think it looks a little bit better every time we see it.
It mentions that there's a couple outtakes from the episode, one where Avery Brooks and Jonathan Frakes burst into laughter, but another one where Frakes just falls through a door on the Defiant set. So I was like, I wonder how that happens.
It's like, was he trying to lean on the door?
That's the only thing I can imagine, and the door is not as solid as the Next Generation doors were, or something.
I think you would have learned that lesson by now.
The large Cardassian view screen, seen many times in this episode, is actually a miniature designed by Gary Hutzel, the shots of Sisko and Dukat standing in front of the screen were composited of the miniature and the actors.
Huh. Interesting. So they didn't build just like a giant thing?
No, I guess not.
Huh.
This episode builds up some stuff for later. We won't get into that. Yeah, this episode was screened 3 days after the release of Generations.
Okay,
so
yeah,
very soon after.
They probably couldn't, probably wouldn't have been good to go into too much detail about what happens in Generations.
The only appearance of William T. Riker in Deep Space Nine, as he is featured on the screen that one time. When there could, like, here's William Riker and here's Thomas Riker.
Oh.
I don't feel like that counts as an appearance, but whatever.
Huh.
Jonathan Frakes always felt that Kira should have fulfilled her promise.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he does.
And here's where it mentions this. As of the 4th season pitch letter to freelance writers, Thomas Riker's on the list of subjects they were not interested in hearing about.
Well, maybe it's just that, like, they, like, if they were going to do that, they knew how they were going to do it. And they didn't care to hear other, like, people's spec scripts about how to bring Thomas Riker back.
Could be.
Because, it's like, yeah. We are aware of the story potential of Thomas Riker. Like, pitch something new and original that, like, we wouldn't have come up with ourselves.
I like these quotes. It's got, like, Jonathan Frakes feels that he likes Tom Riker better than Will Riker because he's tender and sweeter and less confident than Will. And Marina Sirtis says, I prefer Thomas Riker. I think he was cuter than Will.
Huh. Okay.
The Next Generation staff toyed with the idea of having Thomas Riker permanently replace Will Riker in Second Chances with Will killed off. And Thomas Riker would have taken the position at the helm with Data becoming first officer.
That would have been very interesting.
Right? That'd be a very different sort of thing.
Or maybe, kill off Will Riker later and then Thomas Riker comes to replace him.
Could do, yeah.
That would be like they kill off Will Riker and you think, oh my gosh, I can't believe they killed off Will Riker. Then the next episode, like, Thomas Riker steps onto the bridge. And then it's like that episode of The Simpsons where it's like, okay, we now dub you Will Riker.
You are Snowball too. Yeah. Or Skinner. I know whichever you were referring to, but I like the Snowball comparison better.
It's like you, and we will never talk about the other Will Riker who died.
No.
I rewatched that episode the other day.
It is one of the classics, but it's not one of my favorites.
No, well, I think when it aired, it really annoyed me. And it was like, there's some good episodes that came after it, but I feel like most of the good stuff is before it. And then apparently a lot of people have kind of like their opinions on what is the defining death of good Simpsons. And that's a lot of people's.
I have heard that, yeah.
A lot of people's is Homer's enemy, which that's a great episode.
No, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get that it's pointing out the ridiculousness of the show itself.
Yeah, it's true.
And so I can see why people be like, no, once you acknowledge that everything is ludicrous and unrealistic, then you're done.
Yeah.
But it is such a good episode.
Yeah. I don't know, you want to jump into ratings?
Yeah, we can do some ratings. Go ahead. What do you think?
Okay, well, I'm going to give it a commander.
Okay. Like William Riker.
Exactly. I have to give it a commander, even though Commander Riker is not in this episode. Except apparently he appeared on that TV screen for 2 seconds.
Yep.
But it's kind of a weak commander. I mean, the overall picture, I think, is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
Even I think we're kind of like covering some of the same ground we covered before with Sisko and Dukat teaming up to stop the Maquis.
Yeah, it's true. That is very much like the Maquis Part 2 or whatever.
And I felt like the Kira and Tom Riker stuff, it just felt a little flat to me, where she's just like probing at his motivations. I think this would have benefited from being a two-parter, where we could have maybe gotten a little bit more into the psychology of Thomas Riker. Instead of Kira's like, you want to be a hero, you want to be like maybe a thing where she chips away at him and finally he has to acknowledge she's right or something like that.
Right, yeah, I feel like we never get much of a resolution to that.
But yeah, of course, bringing Thomas Riker back, of course, really fun. the overall concept, I think, is pretty cool. And it feels like a Deep Space Nine episode, right? Where it's like, Cardassian stuff is going on. We're moving on, like we're continuing the Maquis story and all that stuff. So, for that reason, I will give it a Commander.
Okay.
What do you think?
I am mostly in the same place. I'm going to go Commander also, and I like high concept, this story.
Uh-huh.
I don't love the Maquis in general, but I like that if you're going to use the Maquis, that you're coming up with ways to make them an actual threat instead of these guys hanging around that are never really that serious of a threat, right? Because they're dudes in caves with tiny ships that can't do it. Especially now that Cisco has the Defiant, it's like they don't have anything that's going to stand up to the Defiant. So they take the Defiant.
Right.
I like bringing back Thomas Riker, like everything at a high level I like about this. I very much like that we're getting into, without even realizing it at this point, some of the continuing story of the season, where with these little hints about what's the Obsidian Order doing, and even Ducat's like, wait, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And so I like that a lot, but I agree that there's some stuff that just doesn't hit that, and I hadn't thought about it until you said it, but I think maybe it would have been better with some room to breathe as a two-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the idea of Thomas showing up and disguised as Riker, because you don't question it at first. You're used to seeing Riker every week, and now recently the show stopped, but he shows up here and you're just like, oh yeah, that's. And then when it's not William Riker but Thomas Riker, you're at the same time like, oh, and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, okay, this all, like, it's a very good twist that you can really probably only do once, and I feel like they played it well, but they didn't do as much with his character in here as they could have. And if maybe they brought him back later, I might be more forgiving of this one not getting into his character as much.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Yeah, that's true. That would be fun if they tried doing this twist like 8 more times. It is like, oh, Will Riker, hey. It's like, nope, it's me, Tom again. And then like on the 5th time, it's like, Tom Riker? He's like, no, I'm Will.
It's just such a disappointment, honestly, in Starfleet security that they know that they have 2 people in Starfleet with the exact same DNA, the exact same fingerprints, the exact same everything, and they didn't, like, program into Starfleet computers that they would be forced to differentiate themselves from each other in some way when, like, identifying.
Yeah, that's true. Like, they should have made, I don't know what you would do, like put a microchip in Tom Riker or something.
I just figured like give them each a special code that is only used in these situations when they're trying to like access a computer with their whatever level. I mean, that would be annoying for both of them, because as officers in Starfleet, that would probably happen a lot. But like maybe the computer chip is a better way to do it. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah.
Well, just something.
Yeah,
because you're like, it's probably nothing bad will happen, because, it's just another version of Will Riker. But just in case, we need to have this way to differentiate between the 2 of them.
Yeah, because, I mean, even if it is just another version of Will Riker, it's like, one of them is going to have access to, like, classified stuff of a mission they're specifically on that the other should not have access to at that time. So, like, it's kind of basic security.
Well, maybe their solution was to, laser burn the hair follicles on the sides of Thomas Riker's face.
You can't
so that he could grow a full beard. And they told Will Riker, you must wear a full beard at all times from now on.
That would be hilarious, actually.
It's like, this is the solution you came up with? Okay.
Honestly, you could probably do something like super simple that would be hard for them to undo. Like, you go in, you take them into sickbay, and you like change the iris pattern of whatever that gets used for the scanner slightly in a way that will be hard for them to find or try to change themselves, because how the hell would you do that to yourself? But that iris scanners could easily read or something.
Yeah, I was thinking something like grafting new fingerprints on them or something.
Yeah, you could probably do that.
Yeah. I don't know. Or it's like, see if maybe like Thomas Riker was on that planet for so many years, breathing the air and eating the food from that planet and something. Maybe some special isotopes got into his bloodstream or something. I don't know. But yes.
There's got to be something, basically.
Yeah, you're correct. They need to have some way to where, like, if Will Riker gets some sort of security access, he needs to prove that he's not Thomas Riker. And vice versa.
But then you couldn't have this episode, so I'm sure after this they did something.
Yeah. After this, they were like, okay, well, that was too hard before, but now apparently we have to do it, so...
That's how security always works, is it's lazy until something happens, and you're like, oh, we should probably fix that.
That's true. What's the saying in security? It's like the only way to get a company to do something is to, like, bomb the building across the street or something like that. I forget.
I've never heard that saying, but I believe that it would be a saying.
Yeah.
Oh, man, have you seen anything about this Star Trek Resurgence game? Sorry to
I have not.
completely go off track, but apparently this game is coming out this week, and I really hadn't seen much about it.
What is resurging?
That is an excellent question. In next week in Star Trek Resurgence, you'll be playing as a first officer and an enlisted crew member. But if you were on a Starfleet ship like the USS Resolute, what would your role be? Okay, that's not really helpful. This seems to be an RPG of some kind. It says an epic narrative adventure featuring dialogue-driven roleplay and rich branching storylines.
Huh.
You will engage in the Star Trek universe in a variety of ways, including shuttle piloting, phaser fights, tricorder scanning, stealth, and more. Like, I can't get enough of that tricorder scanning. I'm glad that's in there.
So, oh man, the tricorder mechanic in this game is just unreal. That'd be great if it's like tricorders is like 90% of the gameplay.
90% is just scanning stuff with your tricorder, and it's like, welcome to Starfleet. This is what happens.
So, does it take place in like next gen era or?
Well, I see one picture of a relatively young looking Will Riker among all this promotional stuff. So, like, he's got captain's pips on though, so it's got to be like just post next generation stuff where he takes command of the Titan, maybe.
Sure.
But I think I may have seen an image of Spock somewhere in here too, so who knows? Oh yeah, there's Spock. He's pretty old looking Spock though, so still same era.
I don't know why Memory Alpha always takes me to the Jean-Luc Picard article.
Best article, clearly. You probably went there a lot when you were like, we were doing Picard.
Sure. Thomas Riker. Imprisoned at the Liaison 2 labor camp.
Yep.
Poor guy.
Just forever. It's a shame.
I like that his early life is just a copy of, I assume a copy of the early life of Will Riker.
Yeah, one would think, right? I mean, this game is rated teen for blood, violence, and use of alcohol. That's... Why are you drinking so much, Starfleet?
You mean synthahol?
Nope.
Yep, this is an exact copy and paste of the Will Riker article up to the point where he gets stranded on the planet.
I mean, yeah, what else are you going to do? You can't give him a whole different history. I mean, honestly, if I was writing the article, I would probably be like, for early history, reference the William T. Riker article.
Yeah. In the Malibu Comics Deep Space Nine title, 2 stories were published extending Riker's story. Showed that Riker had been taken to Cardassia Prime and that Cardassian scientists were trying to discover the secret of his duplication in order to create an army of duplicates.
Oh yeah, because the doctor's like, law of conservation of mass says that this cannot possibly have happened. But they don't figure it out. So they send him back to the labor camp.
Like an army of duplicate Rikers? Or
I assume that, duplicate whoever they want to duplicate.
So, okay, so they want to take like their best like Cardassian Navy SEAL guy or whatever and just duplicate him a million times and make the whole army made out of that guy.
I guess
is the point of that. Okay.
I mean, in a universe where most of your battles are space battles, I don't know that helps, but there seem to be an unusual number of like ground battles, like more than I would expect happening in the wars that they have. Like, because Chief O'Brien talks about like the battle of the massacre at Setlik 3 or whatever, and being on the ground fighting there, and I'm just like, but why?
Yeah. Who knows? Okay. Anyway, you got any more stuff before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's what I got.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. Yeah, that does it for us today. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. As always, check out the description where you may find links to interesting things, or you may find nothing. I always put a link to the Sanderlanch in there at least. So.
Good. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
Until next time, don't forget to kiss the negus stick.
Take that, Allison.